Hello YouTube, welcome to my library. I'm excited to make this video. Watching some of your guys' videos of your theological libraries that you have, it's really inspired me to read more and build my own library. And it's kind of lonely sometimes though, because not too many people, at least nobody that I know, is really interested in reading theology and just reading in general. So I'm making this video so that I can throw myself out there to see if there's anybody else out there that's also interested and want to discuss theology, talk about stuff that we're reading, and I hope you enjoy. So we'll start over here. This is my desk here, and that's my daughter is sleeping, allowing us to make this video. And here is a bulletin from the first time that I preached. But starting over here, I have Meet the Puritans by Beakey, The Lives of the Puritans, 3-volume set by Brooke, Apostles' Creed by Whitsius, Lord's Prayer, Whitsius, Economy of the Covenants, Whitsius. I bought these during that Reformation Heritage book sale, the Puritan sale they did a couple months back. Got some amazing deals during that sale. Very thankful, very blessed with that deal. I just finished reading these 2 volumes, Economy of the Covenants. I am currently in a pretty deep study of covenant theology and specifically how it relates to paedobaptism. Being a new father, I am wanting to tie up and understand that to the best that I can. And moving on, here's the Institutes of the Christian Religion. This was like my second theology book I ever got. My wife bought it for me when I had a shoulder surgery done, and I had a lot of time on my hands, so I read this. I read about halfway through it and then stopped. Definitely was not wise to start with one of the biggest theology books ever made as being one of the first things that you'd read. Definitely should start a little lighter, so that's probably why I quit reading it. But I got this other volume, Institutes of Christian Religion by Banner of Truth, that 1541 French edition, translated by Robert White. Probably going to read this one soon, hopefully, to get to better acquaint myself with it, and then maybe eventually, I heard Crossway's making a new edition. Maybe I'll buy that when that comes out and read the whole magnum opus at some point. This is Reformed Dogmatics, Bavinck. Everybody that's Reformed knows about this, Herman Bavinck. I've read through the whole Prolegomena, 200 pages in God and Creation, Volume 2. Just kind of got sidetracked with some other studies that I was trying to do. I want to read through it entirely. There's a lot of great knowledge. I really liked it. It's just, sometimes I get sidetracked and think, well, I really want to study this certain topic, like with Whitsius, covenant theology. I really wanted to dive into that, and it takes a lot of time to work through these. Pilgrim's Progress by Bunyan. This is kind of a cool special book, I guess. Kind of looks cooler than a normal copy that you get of that. Reformation in England. My wife purchased this for me for our anniversary here recently, along with a couple other books by Banner of Truth. I love Banner of Truth. Excited to read this. I'm really passionate about learning about church history. I am still learning, though. I have Baptist roots, and in the Baptist community, I'm sure everyone who knows Baptists is they don't really care about church history, and I want to change that. I want to better understand church history. Creeds of Christendom, kind of just a reference work here by Philip Schaff. You got History of Christian Church. I am a little bit into the first volume. I really want to finish that and keep building a knowledge of church history, understanding how God's worked through the church. And I think this would be a really good set to learn that. J.C. Ryle, Expository Thoughts on the Gospels along with Holiness, Upper Room, Charges and Addresses, and Christian Leaders in the 18th Century. I also got Thoughts for Young Men, and I just read that, but that's also in, I believe it's the Upper Room, that is actually inside of this book, so we didn't really need to get that. But I just, maybe not just, maybe like 4 or 5, more like 6 months ago, read this, Expository Thoughts on Matthew. Absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. Very foundational for I did a sermon series on the Beatitudes, and this very much encouraged me. It reminded me, reading through Matthew and reading through Ryle's thoughts, is as I seek out greater knowledge, as I seek out understanding in theology, to remember that at the root of it is have a heart for God, have a heart that's pure for God, not trying to become holy unto myself, but to remember that to love God with my whole heart. And that was a great work to remind me of that. The Works of Benjamin Warfield. just kind of dilly-dallied a little bit in the different volumes. I haven't really read this. I want to eventually read at least a few of them. He seems like a really great scholar. Jewish Christianity by Dana. I really don't know anything about that. The Young Calvin, Alexandre. I don't know how to pronounce that, sorry. But this was recommended for online when I was looking for Calvin biographies. I bought it and then I never read it. I want to read it. It seems like a really good scholarly source, but I just haven't had the time yet to read that biography. Matthew Henry's commentary. I really wanted to get this commentary. I'm glad I got it. I got it for like $20 off Facebook Marketplace from a guy. And Matthew Henry's commentary is kind of special for me. That's what I used when I led Sunday schools as a teenager occasionally, and I use these to help me understand. And it's such an easy to understand commentary. I recommend it to anyone. It's a great, wonderful commentary. The exposition commentary by Wiersbe. I got this. My mom bought it for me. To be honest, I never use it. Psalms, a Christ-centered commentary. I'm currently reading volume 1 down here. Pretty new commentary, came out just this year. I'm excited to read the Psalms in light of Christ. It's definitely important. And my old church, they kind of took that out of the Psalms when we studied Psalms, and I'm excited to study it in light of Christ and have everything and understanding everything as it points to Christ. A couple of NIV application commentaries. I just bought these for school. I have not read them. Revelation 4 views with how confusing Revelation was as a kid growing up, always looking at it thinking I have no idea what that is or how to read it, how to interpret it. I was very glad to get this book to at least try to understand what the different interpretations are, not to say that I would agree with everything that the author or the views, just to try to understand where people are coming from with how they interpret it. My wife got me this Calvin bus. I don't really remember when, but she bought that for me. She also bought me Calvin commentaries, this whole set. She got it for me for our anniversary a couple years ago. I'm very blessed with an amazing wife. If she buys your books and supports your book habit, guys, it doesn't get any better than that. Up here, probably the pride of my library at this point, is just for Christmas. A few days ago, my sister-in-law drew these for me of Calvin, Luther, and Ryle, some of the 3 most amazing theologians or people that have influenced me in my thinking and how they served Christ Church. Very amazing drawings. Nobody else out there has the same drawings that I have. Those are original hand-drawn works by her, so very grateful for her to draw that for me. Over here I have the Ancient Christian Commentary on Scripture. I bought this at an amazing price off of Facebook Marketplace. I got it for like $100 or $150 off of a retiring Methodist minister, the whole set. And if you know how much this set goes for, that was like 10% of the price is what I paid. Absolutely amazing deal. Could not pass it up. And I've used it before in like sermon prep. It's very handy. It basically takes the thoughts of the fathers and siphons through all of it and makes sure that they get their quotes that are directly for each verse or each passage as you're reading through, so you can get directly to the meat of what you're wanting to quote. Hebrews by John Owens. I have not read this at all, but when Banner of Truth did their Black Friday sale, and I saw that for $77, I think is what it was for, I could not pass it up because I've been wanting this set, and I cannot wait to dig into it. I just haven't had a chance yet. European Reformation source book. We'll get into the European Reformations in a bit, but this is a source book for that. Reformed Preaching by Beakey. Here recently that was only like $2 on christianbook.com, so I couldn't say no to that one. I'm actually excited to read that, looking through the table of contents. It looked really interesting. This is the Penguin History of the Church, or it used to be Pelican Press. This is 7 volumes here of church history. Definitely a lot shorter than the Philip Schaff's one, so this is a little bit easier to digest for a secondary source or just an explanation of church history. Freedom of Will, Jonathan Edwards. I got that as well from that Banner of Truth sale. In the Power of the Spirit, John Calvin, some sermons. Wife got me this for anniversary, along with this Thomas Watson and the Valley of Vision, and that European Reformation set. Or not European Reformation, the English Reformation set. This is another Calvin biography. Really don't know where I got that. Lord's Prayer. It's just a cute little picture book. I think it's Amish or Mennonite. We picked it up at some used bookstore. Pretty cute. Here is my Greek grammar that I've been trying to work through. I've been struggling to try to understand or teach myself Greek. It was pretty easy to begin with, to be honest, but it's getting more and more complicated. And there's my flashcards for that. I got these awesome bookmarks from Missionalware. Just theologian quotes. And as you're reading, to have that quote of a theologian to inspire you to keep reading is very cool. So definitely would recommend picking those up if you need some bookmarks. Here's some random books that I did when my mom homeschooled me. I really don't remember. They're like Christian worldview books or something. And this is something for school. And then this is one of the Westminster Theological Seminaries, their magazine. I kept this one because it had a really good article on how America originally was a Christian nation, and all the different quotes of how you had to be a Protestant Christian to be in office for a lot of these states. And it was just really, really cool to read that. Other thing I'm reading right now, Christian Baptism by John Murray. I'm kind of capping off my study of covenant theology and paedobaptism and how it all relates. So excited to read that one. I've still in the first chapter, just kind of started. These are some of my older commentaries. I don't really use them anymore. I have Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and this Resident Evil set. I'm in the Two Towers right now. I struggle with reading fiction. I don't know. I believe it's because when I read fiction, I think, well, if I'm reading, I might as well just be reading nonfiction and learning something rather than, if I don't know, if it feels like wasting time reading fiction. I don't know if anybody else gets that feeling, if that's just me, if I'm just a weirdo. But I definitely struggle reading fiction. I think it's good for your imagination, but I don't know. Hopefully I can get over it at some point. I did read, I'm a Resident Evil fan, at least the older Resident Evils, and this is the book set that they did. There's a few more of them, but I read the first one, and to be honest, it was not very good, or maybe it's just because I don't really like reading fiction, so I don't know if I'm going to read the rest of them. I can't even get through the Lord of the Rings right now, so. Here's some more books, just kind of randomness on this shelf. Let's see here. Stephen Maxwell, I used to read him when I was a kid. James White, this is the first theology book. This is the one that started the addiction of reading. And it's because coming up, Independent Fundamental Baptist, King James Version only, there's even some more crazier stuff that my church taught. It almost basically became a cult. It was very good to read this. And basically growing up, I knew my church was King James only. I didn't understand why. I just kind of accepted it and said, okay, whatever. If that's what we believe, it's what we believe. I'm not going to really question it. This is the book that I bought to question it and start questioning what I believe, trying to examine myself, examine my beliefs, say, why do I believe what I believe, and try to better understand different positions, different opinions, and make an educated decision rather than just going along with the herd. So I was very grateful for this book. This is the one that started it all. Very good book if you are struggling with King James onlyism. Good book to read. Bear with me while I put this back on the shelf here. There we go. All right. Another James White book. Calvinism. Here I Stand. It's a pretty famous one. This one, Luther the Reformer. Really good book if you haven't looking for a good biography on Luther that's easy to read. This was a really good, easy to read book. Definitely made Luther for me. And it goes into some of his darker spots too, which is good. You don't really hear that a lot from Lutheranism or when people talk about Martin Luther. But this one was just his entire life kind of in a biography form. And it was, even though with his darker spot, he is just such an inspiration to me and how he was willing to say, here I stand, and stand up for the truth of God's word. Some Vodi Bakum stuff. This one, What He Must Be. Read this as a young man. As my old pastor basically said this is the book he was going to use for trying to figure out if a man would be ready for marriage or not. So I read it, and it wasn't bad. Manifold Beauty of Genesis 1. This is my college professor for my school that I was in, Kenneth Turner of Toccoa Falls College. His book on Genesis 1, basically saying how a lot of it's allegory, I guess. So, Practicing Christian Doctrine. I read this, Essentials for Biblical Preaching. Really don't know anything about that. King's Reformation. This looks like a humongous work, but it would be a really fun read. Same thing with the Fall of the Roman Empire. Oh, what do we got down here? Got Everyone's a Theologian, R.C. Sproul. I bought that for my wife. I don't think she's read it yet. Getting the Message, Doriani. That was a school book. Same with Across the Spectrum. That was a theology book that I had to read for school. This is a local pastor, his book for, he's post-millennial, so talking about how to implement God's Word. This one I was excited to read. I bought during that Reformation Heritage book sale, Practical Theology of Family Worship. Really was disappointed with it. It was definitely more just going into what Richard Baxter believed. It kind of read like a dissertation rather than like a practical theology of family worship. Book on Pope Borgia. Played Assassin's Creed 2. If you had, you'd definitely be interested in Pope Borgia. So that's why I bought it. Excited to read that. Documents of the Christian Church. This is probably my first church history book. Just primary sources, just little bits and pieces of it into the whole history of the church. It was a good book to get me introduced. The Last Kingdom, my wife likes that show, so I bought her that book. New Testament survey. I loaned out my Old Testament survey to my brother. Another school book, Encountering the Book of Genesis. Covenant Theology. I finished this one about a month ago, I think. And then right after that, I went and read Whitsius. Great book. It was really good. Definitely was my introduction to covenant theology. I understand it so much better now. Carter Lindbergh, European Reformations. Definitely would recommend this if you're wanting to study the Reformation. I was recommended it by Westminster Theological Seminary. On their website, they have like a thing that says what you should read before you go to seminary, and this was on the list. So I bought that, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Zwingli biography. Looks like some philosophy. Communist Manifesto. Wealth of Nations. These are really cool. I'm excited for when my daughter gets older to read some of these. Got it during that sale from Reformation Heritage. And it's a lot of information. Seem pretty long. They got chapters and lots of pictures and help my daughter when she gets older to study and learn about important men from Christ Church. Very excited for that. She's not ready yet. She just turned 1, but soon. Very soon. Concordance, a Psalter, a couple hymnals from my old church, illustrated story library, Living Bible. I really never use that. Just sitting there. A Coin Greek reader. I bought it because I was going to use this after I finished my grammar, but I am struggling through my grammar. Hopefully I can get to that eventually. Interlinear, NASB. That's actually been really handy. Up here, this is just a gun cabinet that I converted. And I got the Harvard Classics in some rainbow edition. I think it's from 1960? I don't know. I would never loan these out. They're not in the best shape. They're still in readable shape. They're just definitely showing their age, but still excited to use it. I think I'm going to use it when I homeschool my daughter. Who would have thought that? I grab Origin of Species. Out of all the volumes to grab, that's the one I grabbed. That's nice. Oh. Looks like my daughter's waking up. Gotta be quick here. I read these. I didn't read these. My mom read me these when she was homeschooling us. Growing up. Some random philosophy in there. This is just a bunch of randomness of stuff I didn't have room for. I didn't know where to put. My Star Wars books. Growing up, read these. Alexander the Great. Well-Trained Mind. Excited to implement that with my daughter as much as we can. Warrior Cats. I was obsessed with Warrior Cats when I was a teenager. Right before I turned a teenager, early teens. Absolutely love these. Great books. Hope my daughter likes reading them. And then just some randomness of my daughter's catastrophe of toys and books that she's throwing around. Very interesting. That's a sink because this used to be a doctor's office. This used to be where he would see patients in here about 100 years ago. So, and then I got my couch where I like to sit and read and look outside through the window with my lamp in the morning, drink my coffee. So this is my library. God has blessed me with these books in this room to be able to read. I know I used to be in a house that I didn't have room for any of my books, and now I got, even though it's much smaller than a lot of yours guys is on YouTube, this is, for me, it's humongous, and I'm so very blessed and so very thankful that God's blessed me. I hope that you all enjoyed this video and enjoyed watching and looking at some of the books, and I hope to see comments of maybe recommendations or things that I should do with my studies or anything As I buy books, maybe I can post more videos of myself showing them off. So thank you. Thanks for watching.